Well, it's time for today's high-intensity tech training, and as always, your comments and questions are welcome in the chat window for live Q&A, both during and after the presentation. Today's discussion is laser-focused on making money with mobility and looks closely at bringing your own devices with their associated savings versus corporate devices with their inherent greater security and support. We explore whether MDaaS, Managed Device as a Service, might be the hero that IT teams need. Telarus VP of Advanced Networking and Mobility, Graham Scott, returns today, along with two outstanding executives from AireSpring, longtime Telarus friend and one of the most widely respected leaders in our industry, AireSpring CEO Avi Lonstein, along with another longtime industry leader and friend, AireSpring VP of Enterprise Mobility and IoT, Felix Toscano. Graham and all, welcome to the Telarus Tuesday call. I'm very happy to be here with each of you.
Hey, Doug, thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here as always. And I echo your sentiments about the Memorial Day long weekend. I hope everybody out there had a great weekend. It took a little bit of time to recognize those that we've lost serving our country overseas. Today, as Doug said, we are going to talk about BYOD. And I know a lot of you coming off the Memorial Day weekend probably went to a lot of gatherings where that meant bring your own drink. But today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're talking about bring your own device, a very common refrain you hear in the mobility space. Now, this term BYOD actually has a couple of different contexts. If you're talking in the carrier world, BYOD means somebody who brings an existing phone to a new carrier to get service. So meaning you have your own iPhone, you're going from one carrier to another, from AT&T to Verizon, for example, or Verizon to T-Mobile, and you bring your own device and they give you just new service on that device. In this context, we're talking about BYOD as it means from an employee bringing their own personal device to the corporate environment, basically meaning they're going to take their own personal device and use it to access corporate resources like email, etc. So we're going to dive into that, the good, the bad, the ugly of that whole posture within your customers. But before we do that, Chandler, if you want to move to the next slide. Just coming off our President's Club last week and had the opportunity to talk to a lot of our top advisors that were there visiting. And a lot of them come up to me and say, hey, Graham, I really haven't got into the mobility game yet, haven't started talking about it. What should I do? What kind of things should I talk about? I think we all recognize that mobility is becoming a bigger and bigger piece of what our customers are doing. A lot of research shows that for every dollar they spend on telecom, they spend anywhere from $1.50 to $2 on mobility services. So there's a lot of money being spent by your customers in this area. And a lot of you are asking me, how do I get into it? And so here's kind of the overarching ways you can make money with mobility. Number one, obviously, is selling the carriers. Now, we have a direct relationship with all three carriers, as many of you know. So we can go Verizon, we can go AT&T, we can go T-Mobile. All three of those options are available for you. And we do have a wireless team that is there to support you with that. A lot of you, though, have told me, hey, I don't want to get into that. I really don't want to deal with those carriers. I really want to just kind of focus on the management aspect. And we've got a lot of options for you there as well. We can do everything from wireless expense management, where you're essentially just managing bills from them, almost like a TEMS type environment, all the way through to a full management and full outsourcing of the entire mobility department in what we call mobile device as a service. We're going to dive into that in a little more detail here in just a few short minutes. But the last area where a lot of money is being made in wireless is in the POTS replacement stuff. And the reason why I mentioned that is we're going to be coming out with a guide for you guys. You've heard me on this call talk about that a couple of times. POTS replacement and the land grab that's happening there. We've got a guide coming out for you in just a couple of short weeks here that's going to help you as you have those conversations. So lots to do on the mobility front. If you've got questions about these or any other things, please reach out to me. I'm here to help you with those mobility conversations. So Chandler, if you want to move to the next slide. Let's talk a little bit about what we're here to talk about today. BYOD, bring your own device. And again, what this means is when a company will allow their employees to use their own personal devices to access corporate applications, data, and services. And typically, what you have here is where the corporation will say, hey, bring your own cell phone, use it for work, and we'll give you a small stipend on a monthly basis to help cover some of the costs that you use your phone for as it relates to work. Why do companies do that? Well, because it's really, really easy, right? They just give each employee a couple of bucks a month. 50 bucks is usually common. Somewhere it's in that $50 to $75 range. And the company then, as a result of that, has no management and they don't have to support those mobile devices at all. It's a fixed cost for them. They can tell exactly how much their mobile services are going to cost them every month, just based on the number of employees they have. And there's no challenges around mobility. However, a lot of risks come with that. And I know a lot of you guys tell me that this is the conversation you're having with your customers when you engage with them on mobility. The risks associated with letting your employees bring their own device have really started to outweigh the benefits of that lack of management. And the one thing we know about mobile devices, they are ubiquitous, they are prevalent, everybody's got them. And because of that, they are target rich environments. Hackers and ne'er-do-wells out there in the internet are zeroing in on corporations that use this policy as a way to get in the door, because typically that personal device is not secured. You've got no sort of control as a corporation over what that employee has done with it since before they got onto the network. And you're creating threats. A lot of the research we see shows that 73% of breaches that are happening in the last couple of years have started as a result of a mobile device being brought into a corporate environment. So there's a lot of stats around that. That's the one that we've seen recently. So definitely a lot of risks that companies are taking by using this approach. So what's the alternative? Well, we talked about a couple things, but Chandler, if you want to move to the next slide. One of the alternatives that is gaining in popularity is what we call mobile device as a service. And within the Telarus portfolio, we have a couple of folks that do this, including our guests that I will get to in here just a few short minutes. But really what this is, it's an outsourcing of the mobile support and mobile services to an outside organization. So you're basically handing off everything that surrounds the mobile practice to another company that can handle it for you. So there's a lot of pieces that go into mobile device as a service, and depending on what your customer needs, there's different aspects of this service that we can get into, including everything from device procurement and deployment all the way through till bill management, mobile device management, and all kinds of security and those types of services on the thing. So we're going to dive into that in a little more detail. And Chandler, if you quickly want to just bring the slide down here actually and go full screen. Want to introduce our guests here to the crowd, and folks who've been with Telarus for a long time know Avi very well, longtime Telarus friend and a partner with us. AireSpring, CEO of AireSpring. Avi, welcome to the call. We're also going to be joined by Felix Toscano, who is taking over their new mobility practice. And we are pleased to announce here today, guys, that this is the initial launch of your mobile device as a service product. So Avi, why don't you introduce AireSpring to the folks on the call who may not know you guys, and talk a little bit about what, the decision you guys went into to get into mobile device as a service, because I know you and I have talked about this for a number of years as you guys were making plans to step into this business. So Avi, over to you. Tell us a little bit about AireSpring and why you guys decided to get into MDaaS.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Graham. Appreciate the very warm introduction, and very happy to be here today. AireSpring is a company that has been around for quite a while. In fact, I'm pretty proud that we go back with the folks at Telarus all the way back to the very beginning and founding of our company in the 2001 timeframe. We're approaching our 25th year in business. Owner operated and managed. The three Lonstein brothers are very involved in the business, privately held, no outside investors or outside debt. So we get to set our own direction for what we do. And we are a managed services provider and managed solution provider. I'll tell everyone a really interesting story. But when I initially founded AireSpring, which is really my second company in the telecommunications space, I originally decided that we're going to go into the wireless environment. In fact, it was wireless data at the time, with a device that would compete with the BlackBerry of the time. So we're going back a ways here for those who remember their BlackBerry devices. But anyway, the interesting part of this is it didn't quite work out, mostly because we were ahead of our time in terms of what small to mid-size and enterprise customers really wanted to see. And so we pivoted at that time into a set of wireline services. I'm really proud that as of about 3 years ago, we are now added wireless into the mix. But as you can see from this slide, I won't spend too much time on this. Family owned and operated, as I mentioned. We're very proud that we offer a full suite of services to enterprise and mid-sized customers across the United States and globally. This includes global connectivity, US connectivity and aggregation, cloud voice, a suite of managed SD-WAN, SASE, and security services. And really what we help our customers do is pull this all together into a single solution, which we then are able to help them visualize through our Air Control AI-powered IT service management platform. We're really excited about Air Control. This is a relatively new visual for our customers and partners to really see the entirety of their customer environment. Open support cases, look at billing, look at orders moving through. Literally every part of the telecom process that we work with is there. As you can see, we work with all of the leading global network providers and US network providers. And we offer a full range of solutions with many of our best of breed technology partners, all of which we have advanced certifications with. You see Fortinet, where we're an expert partner, VMware, Cisco, Cato. And on the right bottom, you can see some of our certifications include our Fortinet Engage, our HIPAA, SOC 2, and Cato. So that's a quick view of just where AireSpring is. Now, about 3 years ago, we re-entered, as I said, after a 20+ year hiatus, the wireless environment. And we are a fully fledged MVNE, which is a mobile virtual network enabler. What we do is we have a complete end-to-end platform for MVNOs, or mobile virtual network operators, to stand up their business, access wireless network services, aggregate them. And so we've been doing that for a number of years quite successfully. What has happened in the last year to year and a half is we have been receiving requests or almost demands from our customers and from partners too, that they really would like us to manage a full set of solutions, including their enterprise wireless solutions and mobile device as a service. And so we started about a year ago entering into the enterprise mobility space. Felix joined us, who has deep experience in that environment. And what we're doing is really meeting the needs of our customers. Our customers have spoken. They've said this is an area that's complex for them. It's too much work. And that's what AireSpring has really done over the years. How do we take the complexity that's involved in this whole space of networking and allow that to be offloaded and taken away from the customer, and we take over those functions and that workload, allowing them to focus on their core business. And so that's where we are today.
Yeah, and I think that's the powerful part of this conversation, right, Avi, is that you were pulled into this by what your customers wanted, which is the same thing that's happening with our tech advisors, right? They are being asked to take on responsibilities with mobility, help manage mobility, because, obviously there's a lot of dollars being spent by our customers in these products, and they need help because it's getting more and more complex.
You're right. And I'll just wrap up on that point. I mean, the reality is that, in fact, in some ways, the potential losses for customers in this space is is what we've seen is far exceeding that in wireline. I mean, there are potential ways to, through lack of management or security to have issues in wireline. But in wireless, it's sort of like it can become an open wild west, and customers are in pain. They really need help on this.
Yeah. No, for sure. We're seeing a lot of that. And I do want to correct myself what I said earlier about the 73%. The correct way was 73% of companies have had a breach from a mobile device versus 73% of breaches start from a mobile device. So I phrased that wrong. I do want to correct myself on there. But let's bring in the man of the hour here. So, Avi, the guy you tapped on the shoulder to launch this for you, to run this product for you, is a well-known name in the industry in the mobility piece. Felix, welcome to the call. Why don't you talk through a little bit about your journey as you started this product, and again some of the challenges that you've had as you guys have got this off the ground.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to be here with Avi as well. And I think there's been a lot to say with regards to where AireSpring, has been to where they are going in terms of this roadmap. And you're right. I think there has been a lot of customers who are coming to us specifically and talking through these requirements and these sort of nuances associated, whether that be, security concerns that are popping up, whether that's going through regulatory compliances that are being discussed within organizations and how do you manage that within certain environments, all the way down to the support, scalability, or operational efficiency, right? So the biggest piece to this is really making sure that these components come together and that we're doing it correctly at the end of the day, and ensuring that there is transparency across the board with how do we solve for this level of a need. And throughout the entire time, doing mobility, I think there's always been this need and a gap in this industry for a way to offload the shadow IT sort of component associated with mobility, right? So coming in, we've really focused on identifying ways to leverage our managed device as a service solution to help identify areas that we can really focus on and deliver when it comes to this environment. And that journey has really brought us where we are, right? With the ability to really offload almost the entire component of an IT environment of how they're managing mobility, to the invoicing, to the procurement side of the house, to the logistics and everything in between.
Yeah, so let's kind of dive into the meat of the order here, and kind of the topic that we came to discuss: the BYOD versus corporate-owned devices, the good, the bad, the ugly. And Chandler, if you want to go ahead and move us to the next slide. So Felix, talk through some of these with me. I know this is really what a lot of our TAs are facing when they have a conversation about mobility. The response they get is, hey, we just let people bring their own device, and we give them $50 a month, $75 a month. So let's start off with the cost, right? Obviously, that's one of the main drivers of why corporations do this. They say, hey, it's a set cost for me, it's easy. And mobile device management is really expensive. Not necessarily so, though, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think there's more of the understanding of when you really get into this, where do you see that cost kind of outweighing sort of the let me give you that stipend and let's set it and forget it model, where there's a lot more to be said with, is it, the cost of a mobile device management type solution is worth its weight over time in comparison to the security that you sort of see, as you alluded to, right? Where there's been a lot of cyber threats as they have increased over time. And I would say both in volume as well as sophistication. And I think corporate owned devices, when we put those mobile device management solutions and applications on it, regardless of that $3 cost or that $5 cost, or sometimes it's six or above, you're looking at the ability for them to truly implement that zero trust model that is now allowing them to offset and offload three key components of the hardware, the software, and the network at the same time, right? Where when you have that BYOD model where they have that stipend and a set it and forget it concept, you really don't gain that sort of visibility and control over it. So those costs outweigh a lot of the benefits when it comes to having this sort of a model put together and deployed, where you're going to pay 3 times or 5 times that amount when it comes to those stipend models, where we've paid it for that month. However, when you add on all of these additional costs that you're going to gain from the security threat or the billing entities and all the other things you have to go through, it's vastly higher at the end of the day.
And I think one of the things that I've noticed over the last couple of years here as well is, if you're paying your employees, let's say somewhere between $50 and $75 a month, a fully managed mobile product you actually might be spending considerably less over the time, right? I mean, the costs of these things have come down so much over the last couple of years as we've got more and more efficient with managing these types of services.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think there's a lot to be said with the efficiency of the operations now being ran with this kind of a model compared to what it used to look like, right? And I think that's where there's a capability and a component now where with this managed device as a service sort of environment, we can ship, pre-configured devices day one for an individual, right? Where that lowers your operational costs, that lowers a lot of the human capital costs associated with it, and they'll be able to honestly secure these devices within minutes of it arriving within that end user's hands, where it's already ready and set up to go without having to go through the BYOD model where they have to do it themselves and figure this whole concept out.
Yeah. I think the big thing you gain as a corporation, though, really is control, right? I mean, control and management. And, we see all the rigor and the discipline that is going into place over the last couple of years around cybersecurity and protecting that corporate environment and that corporate data, the threats that are there. In so many ways, it's irresponsible to then turn around and let a device that's been
Yeah.
who knows where doing who knows what access to that corporate data, while you're doing so much in protecting it, you're just opening the back door over here.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's exactly right. I mean, I think, as is mentioned here, the offboarding risk is a serious concern, right? I mean, you've got, you don't know what corporate data has landed up on a mobile device, and you don't know if it's segmented or not fully. That device is floating out there in a way that can leave you, with corporate IP and proprietary information out of your hands, and that has a whole nother set of legal issues that could be involved.
Yeah. That employee controls that device. They get to do whatever they want with it. If they decide to sell it, they decide to get rid of it, turn around, give it to their kids, whatever, who knows what you've got on there from what's been accessed. So I think it's just something that a lot of companies don't think about. And, we should be candid here, right? Mobile device as a service is not a great fit for every single company out there, right? But for the companies where they've got employees in the field, employees out there, which is most of them now, right? We've got a lot of remote workforces
Yeah.
out there. To have some kind of control and policy around mobile devices, what they're doing, what they're accessing, and some kind of control around it it's critical to the business operations. So let's
Yeah.
move
And I
on
think
to, go ahead.
just
Sorry,
real quick,
Felix,
so I
go
can't,
ahead.
it's privacy without compromise, right? At the end of the day is what I will
Yeah.
allude to, right? I think that's where it really allows for the best parts of this model to come to play, is where employees know that these devices belong to an organization and that the personal data stays separate from the corporate environment. And a lot of employees and end user nowadays, and the vast majority of them, are now carrying either two devices, or they're more comfortable having that separation versus trying to bring it all together because of this.
Yeah. So let's move to the next slide there, Chandler, and kind of Felix, if you want to sort of talk through, obviously we've got some unique environments where maybe you've got a compliance issue or something like that, where, I mean, I think this is a environment that's ripe for, threats, et cetera, and they really a target-rich environment for our TAs when they're looking at bringing in mobile devices as a service. So talk through some of the fits you guys are seeing, some of the use cases, maybe some of the clients that you guys have first started rolling this out on. Where are you seeing your customers really adapt? Is there a specific type of business or a specific concern that they're bringing to you to kind of get this conversation started?
Yeah, I would say finance has really been one of the fastest ones that I've seen sort of want to have this engagement in these discussions. And it's really because it's a highly regulated industry in the first place, right? I mean, there's a lot of information that's transmitted back and forth, a lot of other regulations that need to be maintained within compliance that is non-negotiable at the end of the day. So I've got customers that have come to us within that specific vertical, and they're looking to really obtain not only the control back of that corporate, ownership of proprietary information that they're transmitting back and forth with their clients, whether that's financial results or anything like that. They want to ensure that within the second that it is out in somebody's hands, that they know it has met every single piece of requirement from the regulations, the certificates, SOC compliance, two-factor authentication. All of these components are properly set up and established when it goes to those end users' hands. And IT is already overburdened and understaffed as it is. And there's not a lot of resources going back into let's increase the IT headcount staff. So the financial verticals have really started looking at how can we make this more simplistic? How can we streamline the entire deployment? Because like you mentioned and alluded to earlier, there's already a lot of focus on other factors that IT is focusing on, whether that's your network, your data centers, or all these other things in between. Mobility added a whole nother layer of complexity to this. So that vertical has really focused on let's offload a lot of these tasks and ensure that within the fact that we have these corporate owned devices, it can eliminate all of these gray areas associated with giving them much more of a clear sense of control and access to their applications and the data accurately and in real time. So those are the use cases we're seeing more and more of. Anything from 50, 100, 150 plus device environments are where we're seeing a really huge success of wanting to get back into and controlling that environment a little bit more and gaining that visibility and control.
Cool. So I know the chat's being lit up with some questions, and we'll tackle some of those here in the Q&A period. So keep them coming, folks. Appreciate you guys jumping in on that. Chandler, let's go to the next slide. I want to talk through a little bit about what it looks like from an implementation standpoint for a TA. Say they've got a customer that's interested in looking at this. Why don't you, Avi or Felix, whoever wants to jump in and handle this, let's walk through what the process looks like for engagement and then how they go about getting a quote, that kind of thing. Let's talk through what that looks like here quickly.
Felix, go forward with that. You're deeper into that.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think for us, where we see and how we've seen success with this model is where we're becoming part of this discussion in the beginning, right? Where we're looking through uncovering those known and unknown pain points. And the first starting point to really put a full comprehensive analysis together with us is obtaining some of the data points that we need in order to do that correctly. And what that means is we need to obtain the wireless invoices that we obtain from the wireless carriers portal, whether it's AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, as well as coming along with a couple of inventory reports that we need to obtain and pull from. So those key identifying reports that we obtain from the customer directly will allow us to then turn around and put together a comprehensive wireless analysis where we can show you, here's what we've identified, here's where we see the customer being, meeting the needs of a managed device as a service environment or some type of form of our managed solution that we can put together, and having that discussion together prior to going back to the customer and presenting that. So obtaining that key piece of information directly allows us to come together and put that quote together so that we can go back and provide that information back to the customer accurately and in a timely manner.
Awesome. So then, Avi, I know this is one of the things you love to talk about. The beauty of this is all that data that you guys collect, everything that comes together integrates full into your air control ITSM platform as well, right? So they'll be able to see everything together, wireless, wireline, all together, living beautifully.
So obviously, whether it's BYOD or MDaaS, one problem that every customer has is how do they manage this environment, right? Wireless, just as a whole, is many, many different devices floating around. And customers find that they are not managing these devices well, right? Landing up with devices that are not in use, that have been turned up but should have been brought back and reused, overages on services. All of these things add up pretty fast. And so with that said, what you see here is a screenshot of essentially the single pane of glass platform that really gives customers a complete view into what's going on in their environment, right? What's the billing looking like? How many lines are there that are overusing, underusing? Do I have pending devices that are in process? And so this gives control to a customer, and we co-manage this platform with the customer so that we help them. The whole idea of this is let's get visibility into what's going on. And that's the whole idea of air control, is letting our customers gain control and get visibility into what's going on in their network environment.
Yeah, and I think this is something we hear being requested a lot, right? Is some kind of portal, a pane of glass where I can get in there, and getting everything together on one pane of glass is really what customers want. So let's take a look at the next slide here before we get to Q&A. Once a customer has agreed, hey, we're interested in doing the managed mobility, this is kind of what the process looks like, right? And how easy it is for them. Felix or Avi, why don't you kind of just walk us through this here quickly before we get to our Q&A? Just let us know kind of like I think the ease of doing business this way is what appeals to so many customers. So walk us through this.
Felix, you can jump in there.
Yeah. I call this our Lean Six Sigma model or approach methodology, right? Where we're going from a 6 to 8 step process within IT to now, hey, it's a 3-step process where you make your request on our side. What happens in the magic that occurs on the back end is essentially what you guys are seeing here, where we ensure that the devices are, fully stocked and supported within our facility. What happens from there is we have a team that will go through and essentially make sure that these orders are pulled from the shelf. They'll go through and set up a device, whatever the configurations are that you want. So IT doesn't have to be involved in the meticulously going through and setting up your profile, putting, these cases and accessories together. We'll do and handle all of that for them. And then the beauty of it is we ship it directly to the end users, or we can ship it in bulk to a main facility or a location that IT may need, in order to make a deployment. The value of this is it can be easily and quickly replicated once we start with the process with our customers, whether that's for a smartphone, a tablet, MiFi, doesn't matter. We can ensure that that is quickly done and we ship across the nation. So it doesn't matter if it's, Florida all the way to Portland, Oregon. We can support every single one of those customers in those locations.
Yeah, and I think from an employee experience standpoint, if you think about this, right, when I start IT, the requisition comes into HR to start, you guys get queued that a new employee is starting. That device just shows up at their house, ready to go, totally set up with everything they need, and they're rocking and rolling day one. So I love that from an employee experience standpoint. Last slide here, Avi. If there are a couple of things I know you wanted to highlight on this one before we get into our Q&A. Obviously, a lot of awards you guys have won. A lot of the folks on this call I know you guys well, but anything here you want to particularly highlight before we move to our Q&A?
I didn't even know the slide was in there, but this is usually the wrap-up slide. We're not quite at the end, but look, I think everyone hopefully has experience with AireSpring. We are fully committed to the channel. We're 100% channel focused. We do not have a direct sales force. And we have been at the forefront of driving really the channel evolution and maybe revolution, whatever you want to call it. We do value the partnerships, and really what I believe is the key message here is whether this is wireless or managed services or security, the technology is not necessarily different. The technology stays the same. I think what really differentiates AireSpring is our extra effort that we go through to deliver a higher level of support and service to our customers. We call it the AireSpring Advantage, and you can see some of the awards we've won over the years because of this. More importantly, I think, or maybe as importantly, is that we find that we make it important for our partners to be able to reach out to us, escalate. I think those who've worked with AireSpring and the AireSpring team know that, yes, things do go wrong in this industry, but when something doesn't go the way it should, partners and customers have very quick ability to escalate all the way up to me as the CEO so we can get things back on track. So I'll leave that message as we go into the next steps here.
Love it. Doug, we've got a lot of questions out there, I know. So over to you if you want to help sort of guide us through some of these. I know we've got a couple of competitive type questions. Looks like a pretty good range of stuff out there.
It is a pretty good range. Terrific presentation, Graham, Avi, Felix. Thank you all very much. I've learned a lot here today as well. First question really incorporates several that we've received from the advisors, and that has to do with how this type of service is billed and commissioned to the advisors. In what way do they present that? What are the criteria involved?
I'll cover it at a very high level and Felix can jump in. Look, we're highly competitive in this business. And as you know, the way it works for these types of opportunities is we really need to analyze the customer's current invoices. So that's step one in the process. And generally, we will take that to provide a custom offer to the customer, depending upon how many wireless carriers they're using, what the mix is of their utilization, how many devices they have. And then we work with the customer to understand what are they looking, what is it, what is the pain points that they need to achieve and overcome. Is it a device issue? Is it the plans? Is it overages? Is it lines not being utilized? And we come up with a custom usage plan, including taking into account devices. And then we do offer the full MDaaS, or mobile device as a service offering. That offering is pretty complete, and we will be able to share some documents of everything included in there. One of the cool features that I think we offer that I like and I think is a differentiator in the industry is our ability to not only retrieve current devices being utilized by customers or the customers' employees, but we will restock those devices, basically set them back up and depot those devices for our customers so they can be put back out into utilization at a later date. So to give you a quick example, let's say for whatever reason, 10 devices are returned because of offboarding, whatever the reason is. Our MDaaS process will take those devices back, fully refurbish them or whatever else is needed to get them back into utilization, restock those devices, re-inventory those devices, and then when the next 10 team members or employees come on, the customer's not having to buy brand new devices. So that is a pretty cool feature there. We can go over those fees. Obviously, probably they are custom per deal or per opportunity. So that's a very high level. With regard to commissions and spiffs, those are highly competitive. We've always been partner focused, and we'd love to have some discussions with partners who want to find out how that works. But I think they'll find that those are market leading.
So just in general, usually the way this is the customer are going to pay a per device fee based on the level of service they want, right? So if you just want bill management, for example, it may be a lower level. But if you want the full, full Monty, as they say, the full everything managed, that's going to be a higher fee, and it's paid on a residual based on the fee they pay per month per device. So if it's just wireless expense management, it's going to be a couple bucks a device typically. Whereas if you're doing the full mobile device as a service, replacement, procurement, et cetera, it's going to be a little higher depending on, as Avi said, the actual needs of the customer and how many devices, et cetera. So,
well, one thing I should add to that, Graham, and you've summarized that well, is if you were to utilize just a pure, let's call it WEMS or TEMS model, our partners are going to be earning only on essentially the WEMS portion of that. The way we package it up with usage, there's going to be an ongoing recurring commission for the life of the customer, not only on the MDaaS part, but on the usage plan itself. So really, it's sort of a bigger bite at the apple, if you want to think about it like that, because you're getting not only just the standalone MDaaS, but the entirety of the usage package, and getting an ongoing recurring commission. As you know, ongoing commissions are not as common on the usage side, so we're happy to be in that space.
Yeah, cool.
The second group of questions that we'd had really discussed the differences between MDM, mobile device management, and then MDaaS. And my understanding has always been, and I think many of our advisors as well, is that MDM was really more of a software approach to managing these devices, whereas with MDaaS, you have much more of a comprehensive, full service and customizable sort of solution for any type of organization. And I wanted to throw in Felix's comment earlier as well, because I liked it so much, this idea of privacy without compromise, a real benefit to the employees bringing these devices as well.
Yeah, that was a really good one. And I'm going to let Felix kind of expand on a couple of the points here. But just to kind of clarify, MDM is an element of, or potential element of, mobile device as a service. So mobile device as a service it's a range of services that are in there. It can be everything from the full procurement all the way through management. but and it includes MDM. So MDM can be an element of it. And Felix, I'll let you expand on that a little bit more because I think, as Doug said, that was a good little takeaway note there.
Phrase of the day.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, no, happy to, and I think you're correct. And Doug, I think you eloquently put it way better than I could in terms of the definition of the two. I think that was well said and stated, and you're 100% correct, right? I think there's great things when it comes to the full gamut of a managed device as a service offering, and it really is encompassing and bringing in that missing key component of mobile device management, which is the end user or the endpoint sort of software that goes onto a device to ensure it is secure, compliant, and all those things. And with a managed device as a service, you're essentially bringing an entire ecosystem of the device depot where we can store a device together for a customer, whether it's a net new device that they're ordering or an existing, the ability to do what's called the triage process, where we can take a device back, wipe it, erase it, reset it up for a shelf where it can be pulled again and store it for redeployment for another user, and then go through the full staging and kitting where we can reset it up using a customer's existing mobile device management application versus it being a standalone product on its own, right? Where IT has to figure that out. We bring that back in so that we can do it all together before it even ships out to the end user. So it allows us to bring in, again, all of these components of efficiency, operations, scalability, privacy, all those things essentially within our managed device as a service, as opposed to breaking each one of these components up individually and letting IT sort of figure it out, where mobile device management really is on its own a very different layer, just focused on security on those endpoint units.
I think MDM is a great sort of Trojan horse to get in on accounts to talk about mobility, right? It's a good way to get in the door. You can use MDM to sort of, with the FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and kind of,
Yeah.
hey, look, you throw that 73% stat in, whatever you want to do, and that kind of gets you in the door. And then as you start having the conversation about outsourcing that MDM, inevitably it'll start to grow into a lot of these other elements of the mobile process that your customers are often not keen about doing, right? So if I'm going to outsource that, bring someone in to help me with MDM, maybe I should look at helping me with a bunch of this other stuff that goes with the mobile process as well. And I think that's where you start to get into a sort of more lucrative conversation from a TA standpoint.
Yeah.
Third group of questions had to do with the availability of this product. Is this strictly a domestic offering, or is it also international? And any other caveats that advisors would have to be aware of in terms of type of industry or other agreements, direct carrier contracts that Steve just brought up before offering this to any of their clients?
I can give a little bit on that, and then Felix can jump in. As of today, the offering is a domestic US offering. We have had a few partners and customers ask about international capabilities. We haven't got that nailed down because there's additional work to do on logistics. Sure. So that's one part of it. I see a question here is whether MDaaS replaces direct carrier contracts. It can or it may not. So, obviously on the one side, we do offer service for our where we have direct relationships with the carriers, and that can replace what you would order directly from the carrier. Or alternatively, there is the possibility to just get the standalone MDaaS piece, which is the mobile device as a service. In terms of what was the last part of your question, Doug? I think just what other caveats there are.
Yeah, any other caveats? And there was a portion of it that had to do with just integrations with existing services as well. Right.
So again, we work with many of the MDM providers out there. I don't know which services are being discussed, but if there are any specific, we'll look into it. Usually these are all fairly easily able to be managed. Felix, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the only other caveat is when we look at, let's say, quantity of environments or number of lines that you guys are currently discussing with customers, we're open to anything that's really 25 to 50 and above. Usually reason why I say that is 50 and above is where we start seeing a lot more complexity and need of our managed device as a service environment. Anything below, there's not much of a need unless they are a brand new startup or it's a brand new sort of go-to-market approach that they're trying to get their hands around and they don't have the capability. Definitely we can work with that and become a really good fit and solve a lot of those future growing pains that they may not be ready for at the time. So we can definitely support those. And I think those are a couple of things that I wanted to clarify when it comes to that as well too.
Yeah, and I think it's
phenomenal.
important to just quickly distinguish here. We're talking about number of devices, not necessarily number of employees,
Right.
right? And I think we kind of mix that a lot. For example, the pest control guy who comes and does our lawn, he's got his phone, he's got a tablet, and he's got probably some kind of a GPS tracker on his car because we get the updates when he's about to show up. So that's one employee, 3 devices. So you got to think in terms of devices that are being managed, not necessarily employees.
Excellent clarification. Guys, I am out of time, but this is a phenomenal presentation. Graham, last word to you.
No, just really excited that we've got AireSpring jumping into this arena full scale. For those of you who know, we do have a couple of other folks in the portfolio that do mobile device as a service. It's a very popular product, growing in popularity. So it's great to have a company with the reputation of AireSpring getting into the arena. And we're excited that we were able to launch that here for you guys today.
Graham, Avi, Felix, wonderful to have you on the call today. Thank you so much for the information. We look forward to having you back soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
I appreciate it.